Hello everyone, it's time to hit the road to Super Bowl, and the series that's going to take you behind the doors of every single team. We are going to put the mask on every single GM in the league, take a look at what our team did in last year, what are the expectations for this season, what should we do with free agency, how our roster looks like, how our cap situation looks like, and much more. We are going to start with New Orleans Saints, the team that despite 6-11 record, I would say would be my top 10 pleasant surprises of last season, because despite the bad record, I must admit my expectations were much lower, because this team is in serious cap health situation. They don't have that much of a talent because they tried to push in years past and now they are paying their dues. But there is definitely a hope for the future of the Saints, and it started last year, truly, with Tyler Shough especially, but also Kellen Moore hiring and much more. Let's take a deeper look, shall we? And we start, as we will do, with every single team. We'll just take a look at the roster, what's the weak spots, what the great spots, what should we expect from the players, etc, etc. And we start with heart and soul of every single team, in my opinion, and the fact that you need to build from. And that's obviously your QB room as well as your offensive line, because you need guys to protect him. And Saints are actually in quite a nice spot with this group, because unlike a lot of teams in the NFL, they can say they have their tackles of the future. Calvin Banks, astonishing rookie season. I mean, rookie tackles have it really hard, but he just came in and was pretty good. Like only 5 sacks allowed to her the whole season. That's pretty outstanding for a rookie. Only 46 pressures, 11 penalties. Yeah, he could improve in that measurement, but let's be honest. Like, again, he was tackling for Spencer Latter for half a year, who is a guy that, let's say, I wouldn't say he's the best NFL prospect or has the best pocket presence. Tyler Shough, it got slightly better, but still, there is a lot of room to grow for a guy that was already, I would say, very good for you. On the other side, Talia Suaga, his uprise is not as rocket size as like Calvin Banks, because I would say in 2 years he got to very similar spot where Calvin Banks is now just 1 year in, but that's still good. That's still franchise tackle in the making for you. So 2 young tackles that you have for cheap control for at least 2 or 3 years in Fuaga, and Banks for 3 or 4 years. So that's a great start. Now in there, and there is much more room to improve. Now with left guard, I don't think you necessarily have a guy that you are set on. With center, Eric McCoy is one of the best centers in the game. The problem is he is just injured way too often. On average, he plays like 6, 7, 8 games a year, and that's just obviously not too many. So with him, you really need a guy to back him up. And last year, you stumble upon Luke Fortner, guy that used to play for Jacksonville Jaguars, not necessarily hit the ground running there, but I felt like he was working very okay for this team. And I would really like to bring him back as kind of a cheap backup to Eric McCoy when he, unfortunately, probably again misses about half a year. If he stays healthy throughout the whole season, we're talking for the Saints. We're really talking. On right guard, Cesar Ruiz. With his contract, I would not say he's a value for money. He's a solid veteran band-aid option that you will eventually want to upgrade upon. But at the same time, I don't see him being cut. I think he's worth keeping around, especially when you are trying to build something around your quarterback of the future. And yeah, for the future, yeah, you want to upgrade upon him. But as of right now, you just take what you have, and that's starting level guard, which is not something that a lot of teams can necessarily say about their both guards, which also is the case for the Saints. In terms of how I would approach this with money limitations that I just hope Saints are actually reasonable and understand that there is still a long way to go from their cap hell, and we don't have to like spend it in this offseason trying to build something. There is still 3 more years of Tyler Shough rookie control. You have ability to get out of that cap hell within, I would say, this offseason and half of next year, because Derek Carr, for example, won't be under contract for next season, or like the cap hit from his contract won't be hurting you. So just be reasonable and approach this with a vision of 2027 and 2028. If Tyler Shough is our guy, we are still not paying Banks, we are still not paying Fuaga. That's a great room to start and really perhaps push these seasons. I would look at this and definitely try to sneak a guard in second round. I would say around the 40. That could be a mark where you can get either a tackle that's going to transfer to guard when it comes to NFL, or some second round guys should be on the table. I have not yet prepped all of my draft content. That's going to come to you in April, but I feel like what I've been looking and doing some preliminary examination, there are some players in this area that should be worthwhile taking. So that would be how I approach this. With Tyler Shough, I'm so happy, man. Like, I'm really happy for him because I feel like this is a great pick. A lot of people don't understand that just because he is an older prospect, he has limited upside. It's not the case. His injuries were much more about like break bones and stuff like that, and he actually has a lot of traits, and he showed them in year one. The main thing for him, and why I'm like, if you are going to break a bank, break it on the guard, because the key thing about him is not losing trust in his offensive line, not bailing out of clean pocket, out of a fear that he's going to get injured again. So you need to keep that confidence that he, I think, showed in year one, and it was something that a lot of guys out there were like, can he just create it in the NFL, because he didn't have it in the college, because his offensive line was absolutely shitty, and he was, I would say, reasonable about it. One more big injury, and his draft stock would just absolutely plummet. Now, I truly believe he has a potential to be top 10 quarterback in the league. I would say he played like a top 20 guy in end of last year. So I hope that this is going to just continue to grow. And I did have to raise him from just a decent starter to a bottom tier good starter. With that being said, I would say this is a good room. You have improvements on hand. You need to make some investments in this room, but at the same time you have really healthy structures to build upon. Now, in terms of your weaponry, where I'm talking about wide receiver, tight ends, and running backs, this is where I would spend my first round pick. And a lot of people will be like, Jeremiah Olave might be the base, and I am saying no to that. I don't think it would be necessarily a bad pick if Saints make it, but it would not be my pick. And here is why. I feel like you have 4 running backs that neither of them is great. Alvin Kamara, Devin Neal, Kendre Miller, and Audrey Gestimai. All of them are like decent starters, nothing better. But with Alvin Kamara, there is no reason to cut him because you are not saving any money. So you might well just go with him. And with Kendre Miller, Gestimai, and Devin Neal, you have 3 young prospects that within different, I would say, variation of this roster or college hype showed that perhaps there is something in there. So I would treat this year as, okay, show me if there is something. If one guy should take this room, I would guess Audrey Gestimai could be the guy, not necessarily to be your feature back and your Derrick Henrys of the world and a guy like that's going to take 80-90% of the snaps, but a guy that could be one of 2. And next year, you think about completing this room next to Estima. But with Devin Neal, perhaps is this guy. And you need different type of running back next to Devin Neal to really have this room fixed. So I would not touch it in the offseason. I think you are going to enter the season with one of the worst running back room, but I'm okay with that because once again, this is not your year to push. And B, there is some promise in those young guys. In terms of wide receivers, I would not be so kind because I like Chris Olave. I really do. I think he's clearly a number 1 wide receiver and also one of your biggest question mark in this offseason because he has 1 more year left. After the season, the contract is gone. And the question is, are you going to pay him? Most likely yes, because he's number 1 wide receiver. Why wouldn't you? Well, why wouldn't you is his history of concussion. He had several. There has been a lot of belief that 1 more could make him retire physically. And as much as you hate to bring it up, as much as you hate to say that, you have to accommodate that into your negotiation. So I really wonder how they're going to approach this, how will Chris react to it, because from his perspective, those concerns, I would say, are still legit, and he's the guy that actually risks it himself, so he wants to get paid as much for the same concern. So it's like, how do you balance it? Very, very interesting how they will work it out. I believe they will. I would say something in the area of like 32 a year for, let's say, 4 years, perhaps 3. Like if you can stay healthy, then we can talk about another pay raise. That might be my expectations. Now, with Devon Vele and Juwan Johnson, I think those guys are very interesting targets in intermediate game. With Juwan, you're not cutting him. He's your starting tight end for next year, at least in my opinion. I don't think you necessarily improve upon him with first round prospects or tight ends. I would not spend my resources there. He's a fine tight end. With Devon Vele, a lot of people were questioning why they spent, I think it was a 4th-round pick to bring him from the Broncos. He showed it. He is really nice slot option, and I'm actually like low-key excited about what he can do with Tyler Shough in with full off season of the chemistry. Because if they bring number 2 guy, who in my eyes they would really be looking for in terms of this draft, and for me it would be Carnell Tate. I think he would absolutely rounded out this room towards a situation in which you actually look at Saints offense and you're like, wow, they might actually be legit good. If Shough continues to show up what he's capable of, at least in my opinion, you have number 1 in Olave. In Johnson and Vele, you have your, let's say, slot to intermediate weapons. Hope some of the running back guys are working out. Add Carnell Tate into the mix. Young, with exception of Eric McCoy, improving offensive line, and we are actually talking. Man, I would be very excited. So, also why Carnell Tate? Not only because I think he works well next to Chris Olave, but B, why I would also look for this in this room is let one guy grow with Tyler Shough and let it be the guy that you are really invested in. And I think Carnell Tate is your man. We will see if he's obviously on the board when the Saints are picking and if he's going to be their pick. You will get all of the mock drafts prior to actual draft date. Well, we will have a lot of updates after free agency. If they fix this somehow, somewhere else, we will have to wait and see. Now, in terms of backups, we talk about a lot of them. With Luke Fortner, he really is one guy that I think is the definition of smart and cheap roster addition that I would allow you Saints to spend money on, because he would bring a very nice complete backup towards Eric McCoy, a guy that I would not trust to actually be a guard, so he's clearly just the backup center, but with Eric McCoy health situation, you, in my opinion, need to invest there. In terms of tackles, I would actually look and address it with either some band-aid veteran, veteran minimum, or with someone on day 3 of the draft where you are looking at a guy that is not a good prospect in terms of his future upside, but is as good as it can get right now. So look for older prospects, because you don't want him to actually start, you just want him to be there in case of Banks or Fuaka's injuries, because these are your guys of the future. In terms of skill players, I don't know, Tyson Hill, can you push him to come back but not necessarily pay him, because you are still a Cabristan and he's been on downward trajectory with both his health and his play. So if he wants to come back for veteran minimum, I would love that. If not, this is probably another room where take a 3rd round or 4th round tight end and see what happens. The same goes with 2nd wide receiver addition towards this room. You also have Bob Means, Mason Tipton, and guys like that, who to me, out of them, Bob Means is probably the guy that I'm most excited and kind of gives you this designated deep threat, but after injury that took the whole 2025 season, you kind of question whether the speed is still there, which is kind of his selling point. Kendra Miller, this could be also Aldrich Estima, this could be Evan Neal, whatever. You have 4 running backs, I would just not touch that room. Yeah, it's bad, but don't touch it, let it work out. With Spencer Rattler, you are really happy to have him as your backup. I feel like he's shown that there is something there. That something is not your starting level QB, but if he needs to fill in for a game or 2, you can absolutely live with that, and you have him under cheap control for next 2 seasons. That's absolutely nice. That's your offense for the Saints. Now let's take a look at the defense that I had major question marks prior to that year. Stanley as your defensive coordinator, I was like, this is not going to end up well. I don't think you have the talent. Cameron Jordan was absolutely like downgrading. And Chase Young, I was like, why are you spending money? And they proved me freaking wrong. Defensive scheme was working. Chase Young was actually playing like a number one edge rusher, which is astounding. Like, I did not see that coming. I was like, yeah, he's still a good player, but he's kind of your number two next to Carl Granderson, which is like fine, but why are you trying actively to hurt yourself and your future ability with signing a guy that's, going to help you right now, but you are not pushing right now? So does it really help you? It did. I think it gave a lot of new energy and kind of showed up that one smart addition, even though it costs money, can really take you somewhere else, because suddenly everything kind of fell into right category. Chase was your number one. Carl Granderson was really good number two guy. And with Cameron Jordan, he had a rejuvenated season. He came back for 1 year, and we will see if he's going to get another. And he actually got like 10 sacks, was looking like a force in run defense, which is something that we just kind of came to expect, but was not necessarily the case in 2024 and 23. And in terms of like pass rush win rate, etc., his metrics were good, not great. This is not the same Cam Jordan that was like really once upon a time one of the best edge players in the game, but still good for definitely a veteran. So if you can, bring him back for a reasonable amount, I would say something along the lines of 5 to 7 million, he nicely rounds this room out. In terms of interior, Brian Breezy, I'm not the biggest fan of Brian. I just don't like interior players that are active liability in terms of run defense, which is the case for Brian. But he has pass rush moves, and that's why he was drafted. I would say you are not getting what you paid for, but at least there is something. Next to him, Devon Goodshow, he's the other way around. He's that guy that's holding your run defense in. Now, what does it mean? It means that this room is very similar, at least in my eyes, to running back room. It's bad, but it's kind of functional. It's not disastrous, and you can work with that, especially when you have Demario Davis, one another veteran that you have to talk about. Are you able to bring him back despite not pushing? I would say yes, because he's still playing at an outstanding level, and I cannot imagine him wanting to play somewhere else. So I think Demario is going to be back, and he's, I don't know, with 2024, there was the decline in his play. I had to lower him from an elite starter to amazing starter, and I was like, yeah, this probably is starting to be over. And in 2025, he comes back, and he plays freaking great. He played top 5 linebacker in the game. That's outstanding. Ageless wonder, I call him. Out freaking standing. So when you have him backing up this, let's say, lackluster defensive tackle room, you are good to go. And the great thing is, there are next to him linebackers that are growing with him. Pete Werner was LB2 for majority of the year, but he was actually overtaken with Dennis Stutzman. And he was actually, when you look at this room and you might think about saving some money, perhaps Pete Werner is the guy that's going to just be pushed out of this room, and Dennis Stutzman is going to take his place. Right now, I would still say Pete is a better player, and if Demario Davis is not coming back, he should probably be leader of the linebacker room, kind of groomed by Demario Davis. But at the same time, if Demario comes back, I wonder whether it's going to be Pete or Dennis Stutzman next to him. Obviously, you will find some place for all the three of the guys. Overall, when you look at this, it's not great defensive line and linebacker room, but it's functional, and that's a freaking good news. Now, in terms of your secondary, I think you are actually kind of set here. With Kool-Aid, you are not investing in number one corner. He's your guy. You want to try and test him whether he can hold on and be your number one guy for the future. In the last 2 years, you lost Marshall Latimore, you let go Paulson Adebo as well, and you invested second round pick in Kool-Aid. And I would say he's been exceptional for you. Now it's time to really just let him loose. Let him be one and trust him. Don't overthink this. He's been kind of that for at least 2026. I think he held on very well. Just to read you some, let's say, numbers. Reception percentage under 60%, 12 passes break up, 3 interceptions to 8 touchdowns. So like, yeah, there is some big plays being made on him, but at the same time, this was his second year behind not so great offensive line. It's going to give more time to throw for opposing quarterbacks. I think he held on well. And that's also the case for Quincy Riley, who had a very, very nice rookie season. And now I would really trust him. Like, let's show up. Can you be our CB2? Why not? Like, to me, in a year that it's not, in my opinion, a push year, I just want these young guys to gain as much experience and to show me if I can trust and rely on them to hold on to these positions that, if you look at this, you would obviously, like in best case scenario, want Kool-Aid to be your 2 and have someone like Pat Surtain, who wouldn't want Pat Surtain to be your 1. But can you have functional CB duo of the future with these 2 young guys? I definitely think so. One question along the CBs are slot corner. Alontae Taylor has been good for them, but I, in this scenario, would not actually bring him back. I don't think he's going to be cheap. I would say he would command somewhere around Jordan Lewis contract, so around 10 million a year, which to me is just not reasonable for Saints to invest into slot corner. I think you can find similar level prospects in draft and like, let's say, 3rd or 4th round. But B, I was not a fan of Justin Reed being brought here, and one of the reasons was that you are blocking Jordan Howden from playing time. But Jordan Howden actually proved that he can play as a slot corner. He had some good snaps last year there, and I would be like, okay, why not test it? You know, I would invest 3rd or 4th round into slot corner in draft, let Alontae Taylor play for someone else, and take a compensatory pick for next year for that, and figure out if Jordan Howden can play there. If not, we also have that slot guy that we are going to draft. You can try to find a veteran in free agency, but overall, I would just look inside and draft, not re-sign Alontae Taylor. Is it what they are going to do? I don't think so. I think they will try to resign Alontae because they won't want to shake up something that was actually functioning well, which is a reasonable way to look at it. I would not necessarily push back a lot about that idea. The thing is, I would not do it. I don't think Alontae is the guy that you should be investing in this situation. I'm not saying he's not worth $8 million a year for other team. For you, I don't think so. In terms of your secondary, Justin Reed, I'm still iffy on that contract that you gave him because, yes, he's been good. He is great safety. I get it. He improved this room. Yes, but again, he's been blocking Jordan Howden playing time. You are not sure if you want to pay him or what you have in Jordan Howden. And at the same time, did his presence give you half a win up? I don't think so. So wouldn't you be wise or better with those money saved for future years or perhaps for this offseason? I would still probably lean towards that. At the same time, it worked better than I expected, and I have to give Justin Reed credit. Next to him, Jonas Sanker as a rookie played really well, bringing toughness into this room, and to me, he's actually very close to a good starter. So again, for Jordan Howden, this room does not look great. One more reason, let's test him as a slot corner. I know I am a big proponent of Jordan Howden because every time I see him play, I think he's playing well. So I'm just not really well understanding of why they just keep not buying him more. Because I don't know, maybe it's something that they don't trust his physique. I don't know. If there are Saints fans in the chat, let me know in the commentary. Now, that's your secondary. Again, I think it's a nice room that's workable, that needs some investment, but not necessarily be spending a huge upon. And now, let's take a look at their backups, because they actually have a solid rotation of the players. I do expect they to bring Cameron Jordan back. I think that would be a very nice room. I would still invest in edge spot. This is very deep edge draft. So in 1st or 4th round, you could find rotational players that could be not your one or twos, but you have that in Young and Granderson for a couple of years to come, but kind of your snap eaters, your designated pass rushers, etc., etc. Now, in terms of interior defensive line, you have Vernon, you have Nathan Shepard. Again, very similar to running back room. You have a functional amount of bodies. Here, I would say it's much less in terms of, are we looking at any one of these guys as leader of that interior defensive line group? I don't think so. Maybe there is something in Brian Breezy that I have not yet seen, but yeah, I'm just not the biggest fan there. So you will need to invest here, but I don't think you should do it this offseason. A, you don't have money, and B, the draft capital, I think, needs to be spent in first and second round on the offense. Guard and wide receiver. Go for that. Make it about Tyler Shough, because that's what you need to figure out. Is Tyler Shough your guy, and is he your guy towards the extent that you can actually treat 2027 and 2028 as push season while he's on rookie contract? In terms of backups for the secondary, yeah, like you have some functional pieces in Isaac Yadam, Julian Blackman, Dennis Stutzman. Very interested in whether he's going to just straight out win linebacker do job and perhaps let Peter Warner out of the room. But with more of Yadam and Blackman, it really tells me I don't need to invest in this room. I'm confident enough that in case of injuries, in case of bad form, I have some depth pieces that I'm not necessarily super excited to put on the field, but they should not be like super active liabilities. So to me, realize what you are saying. A team with really interesting prospect in Tyler Shough that you need to invest as much as you can whilst not spending and like prolonging your cap health situation. Try to bring your veterans back because they are, I would say, the living core of this defense. And think about what you are going to do with Chris Olave, how that extension is going to work. That's for your Saints. Let me know down in the comments. What do you think about my opinions? Would you approach the offseason at the same? And how much you actually enjoyed the Saints in 2025. See you with the next one.